Hi, I'm Heather Noël from the GivingGameFoundation.com. I am empathic and clairaudient. My friend Victoria is clairvoyant, and we work together to bring light into the awakening that we're all going through at this time. Today's channeling is about the law of creation. Now, most people do not understand that they are creating their world all the time, 100% of the time. And you are beginning to understand this, Victoria, but it has taken a little bit of time to get there. And so understand that the things that you have been learning about allowing things to be okay, all that, the golden key, which is take your thought off the problem and focus on God or love or whatever it is. And there's a whole lesson about that in the giving game. But these simple lessons are what bring you to a place where the mind stops chattering so much. And if you really, really work on this, your mind will completely stop chattering. And something may pop into your head, but you will recognize it and you will stop it if it's not what you want to create. So this is the thing that most people do not understand. Every thought that you have is creating something. Now, whether that will show up in your physical realm, in the 3D world, has to do with how much time and energy you put into it. All right? And so once you begin to understand that your thoughts matter, and this is something that you are very much beginning to grasp on a very different level, right? For instance, had we said this to you 6 months ago, you would have said, oh, yes, I know that, right?
Right.
Okay. And really, and you would have felt that you totally understood that concept. That's because it's in the left brain. But now you're beginning to understand through experience. Now, can you just take a moment to explain the difference between how you saw this concept that you're creating everything 6 months ago compared to how you feel about it now that you've been, or let's say before you did the giving game. Like you would have already believed that you understood the concept that you create everything. Did you believe that? Let's say a year ago, did you believe that you understood that?
I did. I really thought I did, except it was very, like you said, left brain. It was very analytical, and I think there's more judgment involved, to where the energy looks just like it looks kind of dark with maybe a teeny bit of light in it. I didn't have a clue, to be quite honest. Now I see the energy now, and I'm like, wow, it's like there's this wall of darkness, and then there's this wall of, well, actually I just see this light coming straight down from the heavens, very bright and gold, and I see this wall going forward now. That's the information coming in, and shoot, I mean, the wall is a completely different wall, and much brighter, much you could see it actually. The other wall, I was walking in the dark actually a year ago.
Yes. So this is part of what is really important to understand, is that most people, if they don't, let's say within the spiritual community, right, people who believe that they're awakened, if they haven't done this giving game, if they haven't really embraced the idea that all is well, that it's all okay, that everything that's happening is perfect, and that you created exactly what's happening. You see, a lot of people will use that idea of creation to say, well, that person is miscreating and that person did that wrong and I can see what they did, but they don't bring it back to themselves, and they don't recognize that even that person that they're judging is in their world. That's in their world. It's their perception. It's what they're creating themselves. And everything is your creation. There is nothing in your world that is not yours. So earlier when you spoke about your niece and what was going on with her brothers and all that stuff, that's your world. That was your creation. Nobody else created that but you. And it had its own unique flavor for you. So think of it like this. Think of it like there's you, there's your husband, there's the other person that was involved, there's your niece and her brothers, and they're all sitting around the table and they're getting drinks poured. Everybody gets a drink poured. But everybody's drink is going to be a little different, right? Because they're all seeing it from their own perspective. They're creating their own world. Whatever feelings are coming up are unique to that person. And so it is understanding that this is how it works. Your body is programming what's happening to you. So your body is the biocomputer, and it is programming everything that you see is showing up according to your beliefs. So this is an important thing to recognize, because when you look at people that you perceive as being outside of you, and they're having all these different things that are going on in their world. So you may see death. Now understand again, and you already know this, so we know we're preaching to the choir, but there is no death. And so when people stand aghast at what's happening, if you can make this connection that the people, what is it that people hold on the highest regard in terms of this is the worst possible thing that could happen? Most people will say death. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely.
And yet, how about long-term suffering? If you gave Heather a choice, she'd say no to the long-term suffering, a big yes to death, because she doesn't believe in death. Right? And she chooses not to believe in long-term suffering either. Right? However,
I agree.
It is a very important thing to recognize that this is what, people are not looking at, let's say that they're looking at what's going on with the vaccines, if they actually even knew the truth. But people are not so much looking at the people who are suffering or looking into what that is. They look at the death count, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
What would you prefer? What would you prefer?
Oh, death.
Right? No question. Because
no question.
And this is what Heather's husband said to her after he passed. He's like, oh my gosh, if I'd known it was this fantastic over here, I wouldn't have hung on for so long, because he had cancer and he was just hanging in there and trying to, and then he's like, oh my gosh, it's incredible over here. It's incredible. And he couldn't even explain it because there's no frame of reference. But he was so happy, and he felt like he was himself again. So once you understand that and you take that out, you take death out, and so you look at everything that has brought up a feeling of this is terrible, this is awful, well, that just drags your energy down. And that has been, in this game, it has been intentional. It has been intentional because there's so many of you, and everybody here literally carries God consciousness. Now, they may not tune into it. They may pretend, they may create a whole other world where they're just whatever, a drug dealer or whatever they are, whatever they've got going on, or they're a politician or a whatever. They can believe anything, but the truth is everybody has this spark of God within them. Everybody. And the only reason people don't know it is because they shut that down. They don't believe it. They just think that they're stuck in this horrible world. Well, nobody's stuck. Nobody is stuck, ever. It is only the belief that keeps them stuck. So this law of creation is so important because you are creating everything you see, including what appears to be outside of you in the greater world. All of the stuff going on. Now, if you look at this like the most fantastic game ever created in the universe, ever. It's such an incredible game that you're born into it. Now, really get your head around that. It is a game. And you plan out the idea of what you want to do before you're born, right? Otherwise, it would be totally random, wouldn't it? And how would, so you plan it. And this is why, because, as we've said before, you cannot come into this game at a level higher than the one you left off on. Okay?
Okay.
So, once you understand that, and we've said this before, but just let this in, your entire life is set up for you to succeed at getting to the next level. That's what this is all about. You came in, you picked a family, you picked a situation that would be perfect for you to move to the next level. So that tells you what you're planning to do. That's so that every single person who's listening to this can now know what it is that they came here to do. Now, you may not know the specifics of what you came here to do, but you're currently doing it. You're currently doing it. So let's say you left off with feelings of bitterness or a lack of forgiveness. You would absolutely be born into a family that would require you to forgive.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to. And so you can look back at just write down some of the emotional hurdles you've had in your lifetime, and you will know that that's where you stopped in your last lifetime, your last game that you played. You stopped there. You died in that energy, and you had to create a scenario, a storyline, so that you could come back and learn. And it's not about learning, right? Really, I mean, think about playing a game. You don't get on a game to learn with your left brain. You're doing experiential learning because people are, they're playing with their little control buttons, right? And things are jumping and hopping and running around and this, that. But you're learning what's going to happen by these simple games that people are playing on television or on their computers, right? And so you are doing the same thing. There is no difference. And you come back into this game over and over again, playing in different storylines, different scenarios, all that kind of stuff, but you've done it many, 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 many times. And everybody listening to this call has done it many times. So once you get the hang of this, you're going to see what you are creating is going to reveal to you what you came here to do. So today you were talking in your session with Heather, you were talking about what you were working on in regard to a niece and an inheritance and all this. But if you let yourself look at this, you will see that this was an obstacle in the game. It was just an obstacle. So look at it like you're playing a game and you've got your controller out, right? And so the obstacle is here. Now, you can jump over it. You can go around it. You can sit on it. So it could be like a big log is your obstacle that's representing this, right? So you could sit down on it. You could lie on it. You could weep over it. You could whatever you want. You can blow it up. It's your game. You can do it however you want. But the way that the game tricks you is it tricks you into thinking that it's not an obstacle. It isn't a problem. It's no obstacle. But now that you look back at that, do you see that you didn't see the obstacle? but now you do, and you see that it's your game, and that obstacle was up to you. And that what happened is that you learned how to shift your energy and your understanding of love, because didn't you think that you were coming from a very loving place with your niece?
I did. And,
right?
Looking at it, I'm seeing it as there's like this big pond and it's gold, and there's like this Loch Ness monster or something in it, and it's all this nice color, this bright golden color, and all of a sudden I see this big old neck come out in front of me, comes all the way around, and then from behind there's this the face and it's like coming from behind to get my attention. And so it's like an old experience that has come back around to say, hey, did you learn? And so you're right.
Yeah.
It's like an old picture that I've been working my whole life. And what's cool about it is that I'm seeing once I work this, as I'm working this picture, this is not a picture I'm going to be coming back in to have to deal with when I come back on the planet after I finish this lifetime. So it's very important that people look at, or I look at this stuff that's coming up for me while I do this giving game and listen to the GAME audiobook and work with you, Heather. And yeah, this is really very empowering, and it's like I want to go dance. This is a celebration.
Yeah, right? And so when you start to see that it's just an obstacle that you set up and that you got past the obstacle, but what you came to recognize is that you've begun to see that love is different than what you think it is. There's the human love that is all about empathy and compassion, and not that we're saying that this is good or bad, but when it drags you down into fear, right, where you're worried. So empathy and compassion are love-based, but the way that you can do it as a human can drag you into the problem. It drags you down that tunnel, right? And that's why the colors that you saw in your session went into this grayness instead of being light when you thought you were being helpful. And you can tell, now this is what's a beautiful thing about this game, it constantly mirrors back the truth. It will mirror back the truth. So as you're out there creating, you also have a game that is programmed to help you recognize that it's a game and how to play it, because nobody taught you how to play this game. You just stumbled into it. You play into it. And you're constantly being given choices between love and fear all the time. And so the more that you're choosing love and recognizing love, see, something can show up as what you think is love, but that's not love. So we want to explain this for a moment. Love is all there is. The energy that you call, what you call energy. So most people recognize that everything is energy. Now, you know that on the left brain side, right? Yeah, it's all energy, But then you think everything's solid and real and, right? But everything is energy. And so when you begin to understand that, you can also see that this energy, if you were to give it a name, that is love. But what you know as human beings is the emotion you call love. That is not the same thing. So if you think of love that created everything, that love is beyond anything that you can comprehend, and it is everything you see. There is no exception to this. Everything you see is love in action. Now, when you step back and you see drama, that is your That is how you are seeing it, right? That's your mind creating something that is not there. So when you can see this as pure love and there's nothing else, notice that if you're dreaming something and you look at your dream and you apply this idea to your dream, that no matter what's going on in the dream, you go, it's just love. Love is, this is just love playing this game and showing me how to play the game. Love, think about it. When you have a dream, love is showing you how to play the game, right? Because it's showing you what you believe that is fear-based. If you're having a fearful, scary dream, love is showing you, oh, here, look at this. This is where you're afraid. See how you feel when you look at it from that perspective? See how that feels? And if you have the presence of mind to just stop and go, how do I feel? You can see that it's your feeling that creates it, right? So look at your feeling around your niece and the inheritance and all that, right? Your feeling created everything that happened. Everything. Her response, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Every little thing that you're thinking about, your belief created it. Right?
You know what I'm seeing? Yeah, and I'm seeing that my belief is actually holding her hostage in
That's right.
In all this energy that I'm projecting towards her through judgment or through whatever pity or whatever.
Right. Now, that is true in your game. In your game, the energy is holding her hostage. But that's not true in her game. In her game, she's got a whole other world going on, doesn't she?
Yes, she does, yes.
Right? And that game is none of your business. Just like if you're sitting next to somebody, you're both on computers and you're side by side and you're playing your game, it's sort of like if you keep leaning over and looking at your friend's screen and going, oh, don't do this. No, go that way, right? Or are you going to play your game? No, you play your game. You'd be a terrible game player if you're watching someone else play their game and telling them what to do. Or thinking that what you're thinking is going to affect their game. What you're thinking is only going to affect your game. Now really think about that. It's your game. It's your little bubble that you're in, right? You're in a bubble. So you're playing your game, and sometimes these bubbles come together and you have an experience with someone else in their bubble. But it doesn't matter. You can be sitting down having dinner with your husband, having a lovely time. You're still in your own worlds. You're still in your own little bubbles of reality, right? Like you were saying in your session, you said, well, I stay home, I do all this stuff, and that's not because I have to, because my husband goes out and does whatever he wants. Right? So that's his bubble. He's making plans for what he's going to do and how he's going to go do that, and maybe he's just making plans to go to bed at some time, or whatever it is. He's got his own world going on. And think about it. You can be talking to someone and have a whole world of conversations going on in your head while talking. Or while listening.
Yes.
Right? So you've got your own world.
Yes.
So if you believe that, okay, if I focus on her and I've created something that I shouldn't have created, whatever that is, that's in your world. She doesn't have to whatever she chooses to create is her creation. Yes. Okay? And she's having fun playing her game. Now, this is important to understand. You're having fun playing your game. Let yourself just gently, lovingly look at this. You have fun playing drama. You do. That's why it's hard to let go of. Right? It's fun. You're having a good time. Oh, really? Oh, my gosh, that's terrible. Well, I think, okay, I'm going to get involved in this. Right?
Right.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's just like going to the movie theater. Notice that there's all these different movies you could watch. Years ago, there was one movie that you could watch, and that would play for like a few weeks, and then maybe another movie would come along. And now it's the Cineplex and there's 10, 20 movies you can choose from. It's all going on at once. And that's what it's like right now. Just all these movies going on at once. Because now you've got the internet, you've got all these fun things. But here's the thing. When you go into this big movie theater, notice that everybody has different taste. Somebody wants to watch comedy. Somebody likes the romance. Other people want to watch drama. Some people like sci-fi. It's all here, and you get to choose what you want. Now, just let yourself notice that sometimes it's fun for you to do drama. But the more conscious you become that you're creating your world, it doesn't seem as much fun. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun.
Right.
Like a year ago, didn't you have a lot more fun with drama a year ago before you knew what you know now?
Well, I was a fun person to hang around because I kept it interesting with all my stories.
That's right. Right? Yeah, right? I mean, and it's what people might even call gossip from time to time.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Right? And so you were the fun person. Boy, if I want to catch up and get good stories, I'm going to and it was fun. And notice you had a good time, and people would laugh, and you'd have so much fun telling your story. But it didn't create the world that you wanted to live in, did it?
Mm-hmm. No.
Right?
It kept me a prisoner.
Yeah, that's right. So now when you understand that you're creating all of it, what's happening to you now is now that you have this awareness, notice that you are much more refined in your thinking about what you're willing to think about. And even when you come to Heather and you say, okay, this is what I need to look at, and I know I need to look at it because it's upsetting, right? This isn't what I wanted to create. Now the trick is this. The trick is to understand that if you go into feelings of guilt and worry, like, oh, I shouldn't have created that, it doesn't matter. It's just like having a dream. Do you feel guilty about your dreams? Do you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have created that in my dream? I should have created something different tonight? You don't really have a big choice about it, do you? You're not thinking it up in advance. But you can learn how to wake up in the dream. Notice and we know that you have, but for anybody listening, if you wake up, if you have the experience of waking up in a dream and recognizing that you're dreaming, you have a great deal of opportunity to change what's happening in the dream. Now, you've had that experience, right? Where you're awake enough that you can change what's happening?
Yes.
Okay.
I have.
But notice that even when you wake up in your dream and you go, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming, notice your dream world for just a moment. Wherever you're at in your dream world, it doesn't just suddenly change because you woke up. It just stays the same until you go, oh, well, I want to do something. Notice that the scenario around you will stay exactly the same. So we'll give you an example. Heather had a dream once where she completely woke up. As she was falling asleep, she woke up into the dream and was in a house, and there was a table. And so she went over and knocked on the table knowing it wasn't there. And it acted just like a table, and that kind of blew her mind. But notice this, she's wide awake in the dream, but nothing changed. The house stayed the same, the table stayed, everything acted the same. And then she thought, well, if I'm dreaming, I want to fly. And instantly, she's in the air flying, right? She didn't like take off, or there was nothing like the usual, like you got to go from here to there. She's just flying, right? But every bit of the environment that was in the dream was mirroring whatever, it was just there. In other words, she went from the house to that, and then she wanted to go visit a friend, and then she ended up in another environment. But the environment was always a familiar environment, like air or in a house or on a city street. Wherever it was all familiar, right? So the dream was determining by itself, seemingly, was creating an environment. So through the feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm awake in this dream, I can have a different experience, you're still in an environment, right? But the environment is going to mirror back how you're feeling. So she was feeling really free in the dream and feeling like, I want to fly, and bam, she was flying. Okay? And so that's the thing to understand, is that it works the same way when you wake up. Wow. And so you are not responsible for the environment that you're seeing. So in other words, you wake up and you're in your house. Now, obviously, you could make changes to that. You could move. There's all kinds of things. But it's still the way that the dream works, right? It doesn't. The environment just doesn't suddenly change. Like if you're in a house, it doesn't like suddenly turn into another house, right? So there are certain rules and laws that this, what you call your 3D world, how it works here in 3D. Now, can you override those? Yes, you can. But your mind has to move a lot more quickly than it's able to move right now. Now, have you noticed that your mind moves more quickly than it used to a year ago? Are you aware of that?
Very aware of it. Absolutely,
yeah.
And I'm getting answers just very quickly now.
Mm-hmm. So this is what is important. What appears to be your external environment may not change very quickly, but your inner world will cause your perception of your outer world. So when you understand this on this inner world basis that we're working with you with right now, your external world will gradually appear to change in accordance to what you believe. Right? So what you are feeling and believing. And what happens is when you look at this situation with your niece, notice that when you dropped your energy around it and you really moved into a state of, it's really none of my business. This is her game. She gets to play it any way she wants. She gets to create it any way she wants. Right?
Yes.
So, notice that detached you from that. And what it did really has nothing to do with her. It freed you up to have a different experience. And you did that very quickly. You didn't hold on to it. You weren't dug in. You weren't like, but wait, let me tell you my story. You wanted to move out of that environment. Now notice that your internal environment shifted. You can look around and you still see the same house, but your internal world shifted. And you're going to notice something really interesting if you let yourself look at this. You're going to feel a little bit more comfortable in your own home for having done that.
Yes.
Right? So notice that your home that you live in, that you're dreaming up, feels a little warmer and a little brighter for having done that. Do you see that? Yeah.
I do.
And so you haven't done anything, you haven't vacuumed, you haven't reorganized, you haven't done anything. You just shifted a little bit and it brightened your environment up. And this is what happens all the time. And when your environment gets brighter and brighter like that, it can even cause you to redecorate. It can cause you to move. It can cause all kinds of things to happen, and you don't even know it. You'll just suddenly feel like, this house isn't quite a match to me. Or something will begin to shift, and you'll start to feel a little different. Or maybe you'll go fix it all up, and then a house that's even better shows up. Because house is consciousness. And if you have the perfect house, and it's the perfect home, you may find yourself wanting to create a garden. Right? In other words, something will start to change in your environment. that will look like it's happening, something that you chose to do externally, but it happened internally first, and it brightens up your world. Now, when you look at what is really in your world right now, and you pay zero attention to the news, and we suggest that if you watch the news, or if you, we know that you're not really into the news, but if you're tuning into what's going on in the outer world, do it from a place of complete neutrality, or don't do it. Right? If you can do it from neutrality, go, ooh, interesting. Well, that's interesting. Interesting, right? If you do it like that, and you're not diving into it, that's fine. And it can be a part of your world, and it won't change what we're talking about here, that brightness. But what happens is, if your thought gets taken down in this energy, where you're going and you're looking at what's happening, and you're like, your mouth is open, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. If you're having a thought like that, it is just as important that you recognize that that's going to change your inner world. It's going to drop your energy down to do that. So in the same way, you can see it's not worth it to do that around your niece, and it doesn't help her either, right? It didn't help her at all. And that was the game, showing you, hey, what you think is compassion and empathy and love is having the opposite effect, so you know that it's not love. You know it's not love because it's having the opposite effect, right? So you want to just create with love, right? That's the fun creation. Everybody gets to create any way they want. They can create out of fear. And what you're seeing around the world are people who are creating out of fear. It's still a creation. It's a darn good creation. They're having a lot of mastery at what they're doing. Give them credit for that. That is some masterful creation going on, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Very, very creative, for sure.
Very creative. Absolutely. And think about it. What if your response to whatever was going on was like, that's really creative. Way to create, people. Right?
I do see that, and I was watching a person, and I'm like, wow, people are wanting someone outside of themselves to save everything. And what happened is this person with those expectations became really down and out, and you could tell he's just really upset. And I'm like, wow, that energy was matching the energy that he wants to get rid of. So he's actually feeding the energy that he was wanting this outside source to get rid of, just by reacting to what didn't happen, or what his expectations was of something outside of himself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. So and now you can see this if you look at your niece, and now that you've pulled your energy out of it, don't you see that every step of the way she is creating it herself? She's creating all the drama, every little bit of it. Yes. The only reason you got into it was because you tapped into a storyline and you identified with it, right? And then you created more chaos, right? So that chaos comes up in your house, and all of a sudden your home feels a little less comfortable. Just really let yourself see that, because house is consciousness. So you feel just a little bit less comfortable in your home, right?
I feel like a tornado.
Yeah. And so you're choosing all the time but to get that you're not just choosing what you focus on, you're choosing what you're going to create next. Oh, this is what I really want to create. And notice that when you're choosing to create out of love and peace and joy, and you focus on those things, it's easy to bring yourself back there. It really is. People have made this so much more complicated. All you have to do is, if you have a disconcerting conversation, right? First you stop and you take a breath. Just breathe. Breathing is such a handy thing to do. Breathe into it, right? If you have a dog or a cat, spend a little time with your animal. Pull yourself out of what you thought was real and get yourself into this reality. It's interesting how much you think is real that you never even are there for. Because now you've got phones, you've got the internet, you have texting, you have all these things that you don't even, and we cannot begin to tell you how true this is. You have no idea what is really happening in the world. Nobody does.
Right.
Nobody does. You are not being given that information at all. Like nobody knows what's really going on. Now, why is that a good thing? Because if nobody knows what's going on, it brings you back to yourself. And what's interesting is that people are looking for predictions of the future, right? Because now they don't know what's going on in the past, and they can't put it all together because they don't know what's going on in the present. So now they want to know the future. Well, what's going on? Well, what's the future? Well, what's happening? Right? But the whole point of the exercise is come back to yourself, because you're the one creating this. You couldn't possibly be creating a world of chaos and nobody knows what's going on unless you don't know what's going on within yourself. Right? If you don't understand how you're creating it, you can bet life is going to look pretty dang chaotic. Right? It always has. Yeah. There has never been a time since news has been around that life hasn't seemed chaotic. And don't you think it's interesting how, where did news even come from? Think about that. People used to just live their little lives and do their thing, and then news came along. Oh, this is what's really going on out there. Right? Why don't you help us create more chaos by feeling chaos yourself? It'll be great. We'll do chaos together. And you could go, yeah, but I think I'll go garden now. Or I think I'm going to go take the dog for a walk. Because in your world, that's not what's happening. And truly, really let yourself see this. Anybody can walk away from their world in that, we don't mean this in this internal way, but for instance, there was a woman called the Peace Pilgrim. And I believe you can look it up on peacepilgrim.com, but this was a woman who left home in her 50s, and she left home with just a toothbrush in her pocket. And she was wearing a T-shirt that said Peace Pilgrim. And she decided that she was going to walk for peace and she wouldn't sleep until someone offered her a bed, and she wouldn't eat until someone offered her food. And she did this for over 20 years. Wow. But the first night, she was under a bridge at 3 a.m, and it was pouring down rain. And she had a complete breakdown. And in that breakdown, she completely connected with God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. But she had this complete fearful meltdown. And then it opened the doors to the divine, to this incredible world. And she was never afraid after that. And she walked for years, and people would pick her up, and she'd have these incredible conversations and talk about peace. So if a person can do that, anybody can do it. So you see where people live in these shanties or wherever it is in other countries or whatever situation they're in, it is just a belief that says that you're stuck there. It's just a belief that you created that said, I have to this, I have to that. That's just a thought form. So there is nobody who is genuinely stuck anywhere. It's only their own thoughts and feelings that are creating a world in which they believe they are stuck. and therefore they keep creating the same scenario. Do you have some thoughts about that?
So what I'm seeing is the person, well, I'm seeing rays coming down, and actually what I'm seeing is a person that is working their pictures about fear and love. And so I'm seeing that they're walking along, and you have more rays that come down in front of them. And so they're going to have a hiccup once in a while. But it's all about learning. I actually am seeing like a balance between love and fear. Like there's a reason that we do have fear. There is a reason for it. And I'm seeing them walking through, and their energy is actually running right above the line of fear. So it's like half fear and half love. And they're managing through, and each time they're learning how to, I guess, really be directed more towards the happiness, the joy. That's what it is. So they're going to have this balance, or what appears to be balance, with the love and the fear. And as they go along, then what I'm seeing is, like present moment, there's all this love, this very brilliant energy, and then the fear is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's a process. It's a process.
It is a process.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And that's exactly right, because even though she had this God connection come through where she was like, okay, I'm not alone. She really got that. It's exactly what you said. It is a process. It wasn't just, but there was this knowingness. There was an anchor into this feeling of love that she could always tune into and remember and come back to and keep creating that way, right? And so what we want to say is everybody, every human being on this planet has that ability. Nobody is stuck. It is only a belief. And even a child can get themselves stuck, right? And they have the ability to unstick themselves. They may not know it, but they do. Or they've gotten stuck in a situation that is necessary for them to get to the next level. But it's all choice. And once you understand that it's choice, once you understand that everything that you are seeing in your world is yours, right? It is your dream. And come back to that over and over. That's really the best possible way to understand how you create, is to really get that you have a sleeping dream, and then you're in your waking dream. And all you do is just look at your waking dream the same way. So we'll say this to you. When you look back at this situation with your niece and the inheritance and all this, just let yourself go back in time for a moment to before having this call and before Sunday's call, when you talked about it, where you were still kind of stuck in it. Now let yourself just go back to that earlier you that was in the drama. Okay? And now you're just going to go back and you're going to appear to her. And you're just going to say, there's a better way. And let me show it to you. And what happens when you do that? When you go and show her before ever going through that, you can bring love in and show her a way to perceive it with love from your current perspective. And what can you, and you don't even have to speak it out loud, or although you can if you see something, but just what happens when you open up the door for her to see it with love before all the drama takes place? What happens?
Well, the first energy that comes in is giving each other a hug, total support, and coming from that pure soul connection. And then I see her energy going underneath and mine, going underneath what would have been a tornado. and it just goes right underneath it and keeps on going straight up. And it's a very well-lit path and completely bypasses all the lines of judgment and criticism and emotions and breakdowns and all that involved in it. It completely goes right through it and on up to the higher ground, I would say. That would be the higher ground.
Good. Now you just created that new timeline.
Yay.
So now let yourself look at how you feel. Because now there's no judgment, there's no guilt, there's nothing. You just shut down that timeline because it's not necessary. You got the lesson. It's not necessary.
It's not necessary.
So now just let yourself notice did that upgrade how you feel?
Oh, absolutely. It's emotional. I almost want to cry. It's like, wow, this is that pure sense of love that inside, touching your heart, and to where it's happy tears. Joy.
Yep.
And it wasn't necessary to have all that drama. And I feel all this weight coming off my shoulders too, of responsibility. Right? Like I should tell her, I should save her, blah blah blah. It's beautiful.
Mhm. Yep. And it's like you can do this for anything. You don't have to be going back into childhood. You can go back to yesterday and shift it. You can lay in bed and go back and shift anything that you're going, oh, I could have done that better. You can go back and choose a new timeline before you even go to sleep.
Oh.
Now that's pretty creative, isn't it?
Wow, that's very, very wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is something that you can do at any time, and it's going to really surprise you. You could actually, and this is what happens when you do Ho'oponopono and you go, I'm sorry, I love you. I'm sorry, I love you. Guess what you're doing? You're creating a new timeline right there. Right there, you're doing it. Boom. And that's why people have these phenomenal experiences. And you don't even have to say, I'm sorry. If you're just doing, I love you, if you kept saying, I love you through everything. Now think about it. Like when you had your conversation or with your niece or, if you're texting or whatever it is, what if every time that you're talking, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like if someone's going off. Now, notice this. If you start doing I love you, I love you, I love you in your mind, so let's say your niece is upset about something, and she was talking to you or whatever. If you're saying I love you repeatedly, you're actually going to change what happens. And if you don't notice anything changing in the conversation, right? You also are loving yourself, and now part of that I love you, I love you, I love you is this an appropriate conversation for me? Because you are not chained into it. You don't have to stay in it. Whatever she is blurting out is just her telling you where she's at. And you really kind of get that in about a minute, don't you? 30 seconds and you know exactly where she's at.
Yes.
So you have a choice when people do that, because that's part of what you've identified with before, is creating relationships that allow you to be a healer. Now let yourself see that for just a moment. You create relationships that allow you to be a healer. Well, here, let me help you. Let me fix that. Let me heal that. Or I'll just listen to you. Notice how you feel when you listen to someone going, rah, 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 rah. Let me tell you how rotten my life was. Right?
I want to play the fiddle.
Right? Yeah. And so look, so part of this creating with love, now notice everyone gets to create with love or fear, but if you're listening to someone going on and on about something and they're not willing to see their part in it, that's what you're actually seeing. Is you're seeing someone who is unwilling to see that she created everything that has ever happened to her, all of it.
Yes.
And then you feel sorry for her. Oh, I get that because I felt that way, right? So that's where you are going into her version of reality. The minute you feel sorry for someone, you're dropping your frequency to go into their version of reality. That's what a fun game this is. Like, what version of reality do you want to play in? You want to be in your own, or you want to be in someone else's? And maybe sometimes it's better to be in someone else's. Like, you might grow and learn by choosing to focus on someone else's version of reality, right? If you go, well, I like that version over there where it's more loving and peaceful. But some people love drama. That's the thing that's really important to understand. It's just like the movie theater. You don't judge people who go and watch some drama, do you? You're like, oh, cool, well, I'm going to go watch a comedy. I don't like drama, but I'm glad you do. But you have no energy around it. That's why it doesn't affect you. The minute it's like you go into the movie theater of her mind and go watch the movie with her, even though you don't like it. Right? Like some people love horror films. Imagine it would be like, I love you so much, I'm going to go watch this horror movie with you. And then it just screws up your sleeping patterns. It screws up your ability to dream because it's like totally gone into your conscious, right? It's like, oh, I wish I'd never gone to that. But I love that person so much and I care about them, so I'm going to their horror film with them, even though I would much rather watch a romantic comedy, right? So it's your choice. It's your creation. That's where you're creating. And that's the important thing to see. You're creating their way. You're going into the movie that they want to watch. And then you're disappointed or guilty or sad or angry or resentful or whatever the fearful emotion is that comes up for one purpose, to show you that you entered into the wrong movie theater.
Yes.
Right? That's all it is. Yeah. You went to the wrong theater. And so think about it. Imagine you go into a comedy and they start playing a horror film. And you're like, but wait a minute. On the door it said comedy, but it's a horror film. Are you going to sit there and complain about it, or are you going to leave the theater?
Right. Leave it.
You know, right? You're not going to get on your phone and call the management and be put on hold. Hey, you're playing the wrong movie, right? But let's say they are playing the wrong movie, right? And let's say you do get on your phone. Are you going to be paying attention to the movie, or are you paying attention to the fact that you're on the phone going, hey, listen, you got the wrong movie playing, right? You would be totally focused on the fact, this is not the movie that I signed up for. This is not the movie I paid for, right?
Right.
So it's the same deal. If you know that you're in a movie that you did not pay for, that you are not interested in, it is your job to walk away. So if you've got someone on the phone and they're like, rah, 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 let me tell you, you go, okay, stop right there. I'm going to tell you something. I cannot help you. There is a wonderful program on YouTube. It's called How to Feel Better When Things Get Worse. If you listen to that and you go and you work with the giving game and you still have questions, let me know. That's how you have to be, because imagine, you might even sit through a horror film, but if you had a child with you, would you do it then?
Oh, no way.
No, and you wouldn't put them through a drama, and you wouldn't put them through anything that was not for a child, right? And there is no question that you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't have your child on a phone call with someone who was like, rah, 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 would you? Let me just tell you. Let's say you have an 11-year-old who's old enough to understand what's going on. Would you be like, honey, you really need to hear this call?
Oh, Lord.
Right?
No.
No, exactly, right? Because you would be like, no, it sucks. The energy's terrible. I would never expose my child to that. I don't want them growing up with that kind of programming and that kind of belief. Okay? So it's a matter of treating yourself the same way and creating the world that you want. Because it's either you're going to create the world you don't want or you're going to create the world you do want. Those are your two choices. And then there's this variety in between. Some of the things you want, some of the things you don't want. Well, why is that? Because sometimes you're thinking fearfully and sometimes you're thinking with love. And anything that you don't want is only showing you places where you have created with fear. That's it. So that's how you create. And it's a law.
So simple.
It's the law of creation, right? And there's no getting out of it. It is a law. The law of creation is that you are creating your world. And so you can't get out of it. And that's why everything that you're seeing, now really let yourself see the world and then tell us what you see. Everything you're seeing in the world going on today are people who are creating with total mastery. All of them. Every single one. From the victim to the victimizer. It is all being created with mastery. Okay?
Yeah, and it's
all right.
Yeah, it's solidified too. They're that big of a master. You know, they solidify this energy. They're creating.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there are people who are masters at being victims. They have mastery of it. They're so good at it. It's completely believable, isn't it? Oh my gosh, that person is a victim. But if you know that you're actually watching God playing a part on your behalf, that part is being played on your behalf because it's your thing that you want to get past. So God is masterfully playing every single part all around the earth. Everything that you're seeing, all the good guys, all the bad guys, it's all God, because God is the dreamer, and you are the one being dreamed.
Wow.
Right? And so if you want to have the lucid dream experience, which God loves just like you do, you wake up in your waking dream, and you play it with love. And guess what? Think of how much fun it is for you when you wake up inside a dream. Isn't it like the best? It's so exciting when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm awake, I'm in a dream. This is so cool, right? Is that how you feel?
Well, okay, so I haven't done that yet.
Okay, all right. Well, let us tell you that's how it feels to people who absolutely wake up in a dream where they're having a lucid dream. It's like you can control what's happening in the dream, and you can choose things, and it's not, the dream isn't happening to you. Either way, you're creating it. It's very exciting. Either way, you're creating the dream, right? But there's two different versions to that reality. So there's the version of the dream where it's just kind of like, it's just happening to you, and you're totally sucked into it, and you believe what you're seeing, right?
Right.
There's another version where you're completely consciously aware of where you're at, and then you can actually create what's happening. You can change what's happening once you're conscious. Wow. So if you can understand that concept, even the concept of it is all you need. If you just read about lucid dreaming, you'll understand what we're talking about. Okay? But here's the thing. You can lucid dream in your waking dream. And the way you do that is by constantly choosing love. Okay, so here's what happens. If you understand that God is the dreamer, you're the one being dreamed. But if you're the one being dreamed because you're the one having the experience, right? So you're the one experiencing this 3D dream world, okay? But God is the one dreaming it. God is, love consciousness is the one having this experience and dreaming it. Now, if you want to get a sense of God consciousness, just think about God simultaneously dreaming up billions of dreams and being completely aware of every single dream.
Wow.
How's that for big? Like you can't even get your head around that. You can barely focus on your own life. How could God? Well, that gives you a sense of God consciousness, right? So now come into your dream world and understand this. In your waking dream, if you are choosing love and not fear, you are opening the door for God to have a lucid dream with you. Because in your dream, if you're having a lucid dream, you have a dream body, you have a dream world, you have, the house and the table and all these things that are going on in your dream, right? But when you're lucidly dreaming, you're aware that you're in the dream. You're aware that you can change your environment. Well, that's what happens in your waking world when you keep choosing love over and over and over, and you say no to fear and yes to love. You are inviting God to play the game with you.
Absolutely.
What do you see when we tell you that?
Well, I saw, as you were talking a little bit, like right before then, I actually saw a being, and it looked like an angel, and I thought it was me. It had a halo, then it looked, and it was Mel, and I'm like, well, that's God, and all very, very bright energy. And so all of a sudden, he came into this timeline, and we literally high-fived each other. And I'm like, whoa, that's cool. Or my palm, I had my hand up, my palm felt warm when he high-fived me. And I'm like, whoa, I think that maybe I might be getting real close to having that dream where I wake up. But in my waking dream, I really, my sense is that I'm there. I have arrived to be in partnership with God to create now my waking dream from love, from that wonderful energy. And I feel like that is happening right now. I actually do feel that, and it has been happening. So
yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yep, you've been in that process. And here's the thing: what happens when you're in love and you're feeling this, right, and you feel that co-creation? What happens is that when you go into fear, it's almost like when you're dreaming, it will get kind of hazy, like you can't if you were. Okay, so when you're lucid dreaming, and let's say you're about to wake up out of the dream, it starts to go hazy. You start to feel like you have less ability to do what you want because you're about to wake up. So that means you're shifting out of that reality into another. So it's like having two parallel, what you might call timelines or parallel worlds, right? And so you're moving from one into the other. And when that happens, because you're about to, quote, wake up in your other world, it goes kind of hazy in a dream, and it feels less like you can really do anything with it. Well, that's what happens in your waking world. When you're choosing love consistently, then God gets to co-create with you. Like, it's really fun, and like things happen like magic. So when you're having this fearful thing come up, it's creating like a mistiness, like a fog, where it just doesn't feel as clear, it won't feel as bright, all that. And that's what you want to get sensitive to, because the great advantage of your waking dream is that you can be much more aware while you're in this dream than you can when you're in the sleeping dream. And it doesn't matter. You know how you said, oh, I can't wait to have a lucid dream, like in your dreaming, and we don't know if you meant your sleeping dream or your waking dream, but we want to tell you that the sleeping dream is just to give you an indication of how to play the game in your waking dream. So it doesn't matter at all. It's just been teaching you how your waking world works. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you never need to worry about trying, because people get books on how to have a lucid dream. Forget it. Doesn't matter. You want to have the lucid dream right here in your waking world. This is where you want to be lucid. This is where you want to choose. And how to be lucid is to choose love, period. And when you do that all the time, you will become hypersensitive to when you're going into fear. And that's what will help you not have that experience, because if you're only choosing love over and over, and that means on every level. So if you are doing something in your world that you don't feel that love and freedom, stop doing it. That's why you haven't been totally sensitive to like the energy of your niece, is because let's say you're doing bookkeeping and you don't like it anymore, but you make yourself keep doing it. That is not love. That's fear. I have to, and therefore, and it's got to be me, and it can't be somebody else, and da-da-da-da-da. You have a whole story. Well, that kind of desensitizes you, right? Can you see that? It desensitizes you to the feeling that you have when you're just doing pure love and freedom and joy. So that desensitization then translates over to being able to listen to drama because you're a little desensitized. And it makes it more comfortable. So look at every aspect of your life where you're choosing to do something out of fear and not out of love. And then you can do one thing or the other. Either recognize it, stop doing it, or find a way to love what it is.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
I'm seeing this big old column, and it's not completely darkened, but it's kind of a light gray with some bright energy in it, and I see that's where I am in my present moment of the fear factor, having to be in control, having to manage things, to quote do my part, but it's actually keeping me in a prison of this picture of I have to do my part, and I have to, make everything work right, and therefore I'm never able to actually express myself freely in different things that I want to do that make me very joyful, and that it kind of falls along the same energy of how we've been programmed in our ancestors for all these thousands of years to be slaves. In the slave mentality, it's very parallel with it. And so it's time to cut off the chains. And start finding that joy, Yep.
That's right. And only you can do that. And as you cut those chains internally, they won't make sense in your external world to you. So just think about that. You want to cut the chains within your inner world first. If you knew for a fact that you were dreaming right now, would you keep being a bookkeeper? Would you keep doing the things in your dream? So let's say you're dreaming, you're having a lucid dream. Would you keep doing those things because, I've got to, because, I'm going to dream that tomorrow night, and if I don't do it now, this is going to fall apart over there. It's all a thought form. Every ounce of it is a thought form that you created.
That really puts it in perspective for me. It's like, do I want to really dream about sitting at a desk and doing paperwork at night?
Right?
No.
No. Right?
Not.
Exactly. So now let yourself just look at this very gently. What % of your life have you been doing in fear? And we're talking about this little fearful stuff. This little, I got to do this, I have to do the bookkeeping, I've got to stay home, I've got to do the cooking, I have to. So, let us put it this way. How many things what percent of your life in your waking dream do you have to do? I have to do this, I have to do that. What percent do you have to do? What pops into your mind?
A very depressing 98%.
Right? So look at it that way. You see, like you're saying, I am just creating with love, and yet I'm doing 98% of fear. Because I have to is fear, isn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we want to tell you that there is a dream that you are going to create in your waking world that is not like that. Now, so let yourself really see what it looks and feels like to create only with love, and let yourself just go into your world, see yourself, and look around your home, look around your life, and pretend that it is nothing but love. That everything that you're doing is coming from love, or you're not going to do it. Or you just don't. And notice that the things that you really hate doing, like the book work and da-da-da-da, notice those completely fall away. You will find another way, and love will help you find another way. The minute you decide, now notice this world that we're taking you to right now, right? This is the world where you can create with God right here, right now. Let yourself feel into that, because this is like you think, oh, but when I stop talking, I'll have to go back and I still got to add this up and subtract that and do these things. But we're telling you that you're creating it right here in your inner world. In your inner world, do you have to do book work?
No.
No. The 98% where you're trapped, is it here in your inner world? Do you worry about it? Do you have any concern about it?
Now?
Yeah. In this inner world where we're taking you right now, are you having to do anything? No, right? We want to tell you this is the world where you hang out. Hang out right here. There is no need to do anything like that in your inner world. So in this place, this is where you create, right here. What you have been doing in the past is you've been creating in this inner world from fear. Let yourself see that. It was not necessary, but you chose it. So your inner world is where you're thinking and worrying, right? You're using your inner world to think and worry, which is your inner world. You have to do what you want, right? But when you cast that aside, you go, no, I'm going to use my inner world only to create from love. Now, notice that in your inner world, you can be at 100% right now in love, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that means that you are consciously creating with God. You are giving God the opportunity to have a lucid dream with you. That you get to play this game lucidly, not asleep. Notice that when you were creating out of fear, it's like you were snoozing away, just sleeping. The game was just showing you over and over again where you were doing it, where you were creating out of fear. But you come into this inner place, you go, no, I will no longer create in fear. I'm only going to create in love. And you can do it now. It isn't something outside of you to do. You do it now. Now how do you see? What does your world feel like when you say, this is my inner world, and nobody else is touching? There's nothing outside of my choice to choose to be in this place of love. And how does that world look now?
Well, so what I'm seeing, which is amazing, is this, it's almost like a large statue, and it's very brilliant, bright, of a woman standing and holding her space and being this very bright, positive, loving energy. And nothing is holding her down. I mean, it's like she has found her free will. She's found her power, and she is at literally being in the space of holding the space of love, this energy, this very strong, loving energy, or bright energy, I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh.
So what happens when that statue is given full freedom? What happens when the light is not when it's not just holding space? See, notice that you saw a statue holding space, right?
Right.
But you are all space. You're all of it. There's nothing to hold, right? You don't have to hold space because you're it. There's nothing in resistance to love. There never has been. Only fear has to hold space, right?
Right.
Now let yourself really see that, because if there's nothing but love, what is the space that you're holding?
Wow. But what I'm seeing now, it's not so much a statue. I'm seeing all this bright energy, and I see this these plugs, these cords trying to come in, and they're kind of dark. And so what I say to them, I just say, I am love, and then they leave away. They can't match that energy. When they're saying hello to me, I'm saying back to them, I am love. And then they leave.
That's right. Guess what? They don't have a choice.
Oh.
They don't have a choice, because anything that is in opposition to love, now hold on, we're going to tell you, it's not real. Love is the only reality. So when you say, I am love, the game program withdraws anything that is not love. It's the program that withdraws it. It goes, oh, you got it. You're playing the game. You get it. Boom, gone. That's love's game. It's not that it withdraws and it's a real thing and it's going to go someplace else and bother somebody else. It's gone. It's like love. It's like the way that the sun just dissipates, the clouds, and it just comes right through the clouds. It's like all the what you see as a cloud, it dissipates back into moisture in the sky or whatever it is, right? But the sun goes right through.
Wow.
Okay, so this is the truth about love. There is nothing but love. Anything else you're experiencing, you are creating it.
Perfect.
That's
perfect.
And so when you go, I no longer choose. So that's why when you say, I am love, it dissipates anything, any belief that you have ever had about fear, right? Because even if you see dark entities or whatever coming toward you or trying to come into your space, you had to believe in that before you ever experienced it.
Wow.
Right?
Right.
And what you're doing is you're saying, I choose to change what I believe. I choose to change what I believe, and I am remembering who I am. That's really what it is, isn't it? I am remembering who I am. I am love.
I am love. Yep.
So if you look at the game like a program, the program is programmed to show you what you believe. And when you say, I am love, then anything else has to go away because it wasn't there in the first place. You're saying, I no longer am creating that. And the game goes, okay, great, awesome. And if you go, okay, I do believe in it, it comes right back in. Okay, I do believe in darkness. I do believe. Boom, back it comes. And the program goes, okay, great, there it is. Right? It's just a program. It's just showing you what you say is so. And that's why you never have to hold space.
Wow.
Because when you know that you're love, there's nothing else. That's it. Now you can start having fun with your game. It's not like, oh, I get it, I'm love, I'm it, right? Game over. No, this is when the game begins. This is when you really can have fun with your game.
Wow.
Do you have anything else
awesome.
you'd like to add? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, and it's like, whoa, all the different avenues and all the choices, and figuring out, okay, you know, is this love? Is this what I want? It's almost like that lady that tells you how to clean out your space, and you have to hold it next to you and say, is this, do I love this, or is this love?
Yeah. Does it bring me joy?
That's yes. Yeah. Does this bring me joy? And so this is what all of a sudden I'm like, oh, and then I'm looking at the line, you know, the path that's going to happen as I do this. And I'm going to kind of start at the bottom, and there's going to be some rocks and pebbles in the way kind of, but I'm just kind of meander through and just take steps up. And so, you know, the bottom line is, does this bring me joy? It's the very same concept.
It's beautiful. And think of the rocks and pebbles like this. Think about, have you ever seen a pathway that has little rocks along each side, and it creates a beautiful pathway? You've seen that, where they have rocks going along the path, so there's a path in the middle and there's rocks on the sides? Yeah? Well, imagine that every rock and pebble that you come across, that it's creating a beautiful pathway. Right?
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
I see them on the side, yep.
Yeah, and that way it's not like an obstruction. It's not like a bad thing. It's like every rock and pebble you come across is going to be part of this beautiful pathway. And the beautiful thing about a pathway is that others can follow the path. So that every rock and pebble that you put to the side to make your pathway is going to be there for others as well.
Wow.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
I'm just saying that there's a lot of work to be done. Not work, but a lot of choices. And wow, I'm feeling the excitement of all this. That I'm looking in my future, from now and into the future, and how I realized that what I felt despairing on how I could change my life, and now I know that if I stay in I am love and ask, is this joy or is this love, how I will be directed, and I'll have help, because the love is there to help me, to guide me, so I can, I'll have that support. It's a word of support, knowing that I've got to follow my heart, the support is like pushing me, like keep going, this is right, and so that's what I needed.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, and
thank you.
We love talking about the law of creation, and we love talking about it with you, Victoria, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us at Psychic Insights. You will often hear me refer to life as a game. To understand this concept on a deeper level, listen to the GAME Audiobook by Heather Noël. There's also a free 60-day e-course at theGivingGameFoundation.com. Links are in the description box. Be sure you like, comment, subscribe, and click on the bell if you'd like to receive more of these talks. Thank you.